Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Qudus, Ya Latif, Ya Sabur, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. You are the one who we look to for protection. You are the one that we look to for grace and for blessings. You are the one who sustains and nourishes us. You are the creator who put us all into being, and we owe all that we have to you. We were created out of your love, and we look to understand that love so that we may become that love. Amen. Islam means surrender. And the word surrender has to be understood in the context of the deen, in the context of the religion, in the context of the way. What does it mean to surrender? How does one surrender? What is the process of surrendering? We have been told, and we know very well, that Allah has 3,000 gracious qualities and 99 beautiful names. Each of these are a representation of our Lord. Each of these is a name that signifies our Lord, but it is also a quality that signifies our Lord. And we should know that he is not just one quality, he is many qualities. And all of these qualities together form Allah. So he is mercy, he is compassion, but he is also justice, and he is also equality. He is also the one who gives and the one who takes. He also does what's necessary in various situations. Now, we are limited by our nature, and we are trying to expand into knowing our Lord. And we are told that to do this, we must surrender to our Lord. But what does that mean, and how is it done? We were created in Allah's image, but Allah has no form, which means that we were created with Allah's qualities to become Allah's qualities, to become manifestations of those qualities in human form. To surrender then means to take those qualities that are Allah's and integrate them into our system and act with them. And in acting with them, we comply with our directive to act as we were created, which is in Allah's qualities, in God's qualities. This is our purpose here. And as we integrate further into Allah's qualities, we become more like Allah. And in becoming more like Allah, surrender occurs. Surrender can only occur by the integration of those qualities and by acting those qualities in our life. It is not enough to show up at prayer and do the ritual things. Now, it's important, but it's not enough. It is not taking you to the level of surrender. It's taking you to the level of performance. It's taking you to the level of obligation. But to get to the level of surrender, we actually have to act within the qualities. They have to come into us, and then they have to be expressed by us. If we don't express the qualities, if we don't act with the qualities towards other people, towards our family, towards the rest of humanity, we haven't surrendered. Because to surrender means to understand that which is his will and to do his will. But how can you possibly understand his will and do his will unless you become the qualities that are that will? You see, mercy and compassion are names, but they are also his actions. Allah is known as the merciful and the compassionate. These are his names, but these are also his actions towards his creation. Mercy and compassion are his actions towards his creation. And if we are to surrender to that, we have to become that. Without becoming that, there is no surrender, there's just talk. Without action in those qualities, there is no surrender, there is just talk. So surrender usually in the English language has a meaning of giving something up. Well, surrender involves giving up that which is not from Allah's qualities. So the methodology of surrender is in twofold. One, giving up that which is not from Allah, and two, absorbing that which is Allah. So we have to become knowledgeable about that which is Allah. And we have to become knowledgeable as to how to be that way. The only way that we can create a dialogue with our Lord is to learn his language. And his language is not in words the way we know words. His language is not English, it's not Spanish, it's not French, it's not a language. His language is in resonance, and his language is in his qualities. So for us to communicate with Allah, we need to understand the language that is love. We need to understand the language that is mercy. We need to understand the language that is compassion and gratitude. And we have to be able to create the resonance of those qualities within us, and then we vibrate at Allah's resonance. We vibrate at the resonance of those qualities, and that's when surrender occurs. If we are in states that are other than the qualities of Allah, we haven't surrendered, because we've allowed those states to stay in us and we haven't given them up. There's a word in Arabic, maqam. It means state. Now, a state is something that it means station. A station is a place that we have incorporated into our being in a powerful way. So powerful that we don't lose that. Now, most people, as they go through their day, they may intend to be kind, and they may intend to be loving, and they may intend to be merciful and compassionate. But as they move through the day and enter into the sphere of this illusory world and enter into all of the different things that happen to them in this world, may become upset. They may lose their equilibrium. And when this happens, when they become upset, when they lose their equilibrium, they may lose their station. They may lose their kindness. They may lose their love. They may lose their compassion. And this happens because of the constant interaction with illusion and treating illusion as if it had some kind of importance. I got a call yesterday from a friend of mine who had been listening to political hearings on television. And he was all upset. And he had lost his center and really seemed disturbed. And I didn't have a chance to talk to him for very long. But the reason he had lost his center and the reason he had become disturbed is he thought these hearings reached a level of very great importance. And unless they went the way he wanted them to go, there was difficulty. And there was going to be difficulty in the world and difficulty in his situation. We need to be able to get beyond the influence of the world on our situation. We need to be able to get beyond the influence of the illusory nature of things in this phenomenal world to influence the status of our resonance and our qualities. Consciousness is a sliding scale. And I've used that term a lot because it's so true. We slide up and down consciousness. And we slide up and down consciousness depending on our focus and our state of surrender. And again, what is surrender? It's giving up the qualities that aren't Allah's and absorbing the qualities that are from Allah. So, if we interact with the world and the world comes at us with difficult situations that we think are critically important to us, we will slide, and we will slide down because we have now supplanted at the forefront of our consciousness the qualities of God with the dilemmas of the world. Now, can we get to the point where the dilemmas of the world never interfere with our consciousness of God? Well, that's a question each of us has to answer. And I hope that the answer for each of us is we're working towards it, and eventually we will get there. And that's the difference between a station and a state. We can have moments of connectivity with our Lord, but if they fade away, we haven't established a station. We haven't established permanence, and we need to work on that permanence. We need to work on being in a state of surrender at all times. Perfection exists at all times. The difficulty is our ability to see perfection. If we're in a great state, perfection is easier to see. If we're surrendered, perfection is easier to see. If we are in a state that is in the lower levels of consciousness, perfection is very hard to see, because all we see are the difficulties that we encounter and the obstacles that are placed before us because of our own desires and our constant need to fulfill those desires, our own expectations and our constant need to fulfill expectations. Can we enter into a space where there are no expectations? Can we enter into a space where our association with love is sufficient to satisfy us without all of the trimmings from the world? Can we get to the point where our focus is towards Allah and leaves the elemental world, leaves the needs associated with the elemental world, leaves the statuses of the elemental world, leaves the need to resolve all interactions with the elemental world in our favor? We have this part of us that needs to resolve things in our favor. We need to come out at the end of the equation with praise, as opposed to coming out at the end of the equation with blame. But we should know that whenever we are involved in this elemental world with other beings, they're having the same situation that we're having. They're having the need to come out in praise as opposed to blame. And it leads to conflict. So no matter who you are, no matter what your status, no matter what your resonance, there are always going to be people in the world who are going to put blame on you. It's the nature of things. There's a story told about our Sheikh, Muhammad Rahim Muhaiyaddeen. There was this man who was constantly criticizing him and spreading terrible rumors about him in the city that he lived in, which was Jaffna in Sri Lanka. And one time, Bao was walking down the street, and this man was walking on the other side of the street. And one of Bao's disciples saw Bao walk across the street and give him money, and then walk back to where he was. And later on, he went up to Bao and he said, "This man is constantly criticizing you. This man is slandering you. This man is telling lies about you, yet you gave him money." He said, "Why?" He said, "Because in reality, when people tell lies about you, they take on your karma, and they take away from you transgressions that you have committed. And I was paying him for the service that he was doing to me." So a lot of the times, the things that we look at that may appear to us to be difficult things or inappropriate things are in a very subtle way in our benefit, but we can't always see them because we're always looking to be praised as opposed to being blamed. We need to get beyond praise and blame. To surrender, you are beyond praise and blame. The great Saint Rabius said, "I do not desire heaven and I do not fear hell." And it's a very compact statement, but it has an enormous meaning. She was not looking for praise and blame in this world. She was looking to get to know her Lord. She was looking to create a connection with her Lord. And we should all know that we are also looking for that. And that is the object of this path. And how do we accomplish that? By integrating with his qualities and leaving the satanic qualities behind. By paying more attention to him and less attention to the world. By taking our desires and not giving them the credence that we used to give them before we got on this path. By releasing ourselves from that which binds us to this world. By releasing ourselves from all of the things that we thought were important and which the world tells us are important. The world tells us titles are important. Allah doesn't need titles. The world tells us wealth is important. Allah doesn't need wealth. The world tells us power is important. Allah has more power than is imaginable. He doesn't need power. All of everything is in him and through him. And if we connect to him, we are connected to all of everything. It is not a matter of what the world sees. It is a matter of what Allah sees. And can we focus the way Allah focuses? Can we understand the truth in the way the truth is in reality? Or is the way we see truth tempered by this world of illusion? Do we see differences because of race and religion? Do we see differences because of relationships and family? Do we see differences among people, or are we able to see all and everyone the same and treat everyone with the same dignity and the same respect? Can we climb above the status that the world has given to things and escape from it? You know, in Hinduism, prior to Gandhi, and to some extent still, there was this very complex caste system where everyone had their place in society and they couldn't move. They were stuck in that place. And the higher levels of the caste system always looked with disdain on the lower levels of the caste system. And it created a very complex, prejudiced society. Now, do we carry with us, even though there is no caste system, this disdain for others who don't meet our criteria for what's important and what's not important? Do we carry disdain for people who don't fit into our definition of what's appropriate? Or have we gotten to the point where we don't judge other people? Allah has kept judgment for himself. Can we release ourselves from judgment? To surrender to Allah means to surrender judgment to him also, to allow him to be the one who judges and for us to stay out of it. In relationships with people, what happens is you see other people for a period of time. And during that period of time, they're at a certain resonance. And when you see them, they are at whatever state they're in at that section, at that moment. However, when you leave them, they may change entirely. They may have been in a descent, but have climbed out of it and gotten to somewhere else. You only saw them for the moment that you saw them, and you made a judgment on the moment that you saw them without knowing the overall picture of who they are. Well, this is what we do when we judge. Allah sees the entire picture. We make judgments on minute instances, and that's why we have to stay away from judgment. And if we don't stay away from judgment, we haven't surrendered. We haven't gone into that place where our resonance complies with Allah's resonance, because we are acting on limited information and coming to conclusions on limited information. That's why it's better not to come to conclusions about people. That's why it's better not to judge people harshly or even to give them status, because we don't know the entire story. I was with somebody once, and there was somebody in the audience who all of a sudden began to criticize somebody and criticize them rather harshly. And the person I was sitting next to said to that person, "Are you next going to decide who goes to heaven and who goes to hell?" And that's the situation. We believe that we can take over God's place when we begin to judge, and that can't be done. What is happening, in fact, when we begin to act that way is we are all of a sudden bringing our will back into the picture. And part of surrender is to give up our will for God's qualities. And if we can't do that, then all we're doing is pretending to surrender, but not actually surrendering. Will is something we have to understand and get hold of. It's very difficult for man and women not to impose their will. It's very difficult for men and women not to have opinions and to not feel strongly about those opinions. Are we capable of letting go of our opinions? And are we capable of, instead of having opinions, just loving? Are we capable of having opinions, instead of having opinions, just being merciful or being compassionate? Do we understand the difference? Do we know what it means to give up our opinion? And anytime we have a very powerful opinion, it causes us distress, because every time we hear an opposite opinion, we react. We react because we are so attached to our opinions that we consider them part of ourselves. And our opinions become so important to us that if people attack those opinions, in fact, they are attacking us. And I'm sure you've all seen it when people get into arguments about opinions, and pretty soon they get into fights. Now, why are they fighting about opinions if they're not so close to them that they've integrated them with themselves? So what are we looking to integrate with? Are we looking to integrate with opinions, or are we looking to integrate with Allah's qualities? We have to constantly be looking at things in this way. We have to be constantly cleansing ourselves of everything from this illusory world. It is our purpose to cross over this world of illusion and enter into the world of reality. But as long as we hold on to the world of illusion, and as long as we give the world of illusion importance, and as long as we argue on behalf of various illusions within this world of illusion, we can't surrender because we're so tied into mixing with the world. Detachment is an important word. And there's the story of the aluminum spoon and the wooden spoon. They both stir the soup, but the wooden spoon takes on all of the flavors of the various soups that it stirs. The aluminum spoon is inert to the soup that it stirs. It doesn't take it on. We have to be able to walk through this life without taking on all of the soup that we walk through, without taking on all of the things that we come near. We need to become free of those things. And as we become free of the world, we become more in reality. And this is a constant battle. It starts every morning. It starts every time you go to work, because we are in the world, yet we're trying to be not of the world. But we have to feed ourselves. We have obligations to our families. We have obligations to our relatives. We have obligations to the rest of society in a worldly manner. We have to learn how to do all of these obligations without getting so wound up in those obligations that we lose sight of our greatest obligation, which is to Allah. Now, Allah is the nourisher and the sustainer and the protector of all of us. And we, in very real ways, are given some of that responsibility. We have to take care of our children, take care of our wife or husband, take care of our immediate family, take care of housing, take care of food needs, take care of a lot of things in this world. A lot of obligations that Allah doesn't have, but they've been given to us. So we have to assume these obligations and still not be so tied to them that we lose sight of our utmost obligation, which is to begin to know our Lord and to stay in touch with our Lord. And we can't get frustrated when we fall from that place of focus, when we fall from that place of determination to stay in a state of love. Things upset us, and if we get upset, we lose our equilibrium, we lose our center, and we act in ways that we shouldn't act. We do things that we shouldn't do, and then we have regrets. Now, regrets can overwhelm us to the point of, again, losing our focus. So it's a very fine line we walk. It's a tightrope. And it's often described by the holy men that this path is like the sword of a very sharp, the edge of a very sharp sword. And it's very difficult to walk this path, but this is the path we've chosen. So we have to persevere, and we have to constantly make our place on this path over and over again and reiterate our focus, reiterate our intention, and reiterate that we need to leave the world of illusion to enter into the world of reality. When we begin to understand that, we will become free of the world of illusion. But if we're bothered by praise and blame, if we're bothered by comparisons to other people, if we're bothered by interactions with other people that don't go our way, we're going to have difficulty staying in a state of love. So we have to become independent of the illusory world. We have to become independent of the effects of illusion. Now, that's a short phrase, but it's a lot to swallow. We have to become independent of the effects of illusion. Illusion cannot bother us. And we have to understand that almost everything we encounter in this world is illusory. We have to really be able to focus on what's real and what's temporary, what's important and what's not important. And when we're able to do that, we will go from being every once in a while in a state of love or kindness to entering into a station of love where our roots are so powerful that we can't be shaken from that intention and from that quality. We need to make that our intention, that we become strong in Allah's qualities. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, O great one who is the creator of all that we see, who is the one who is behind all that we do, who guides us and who puts us on the straight path. Help us to understand your qualities. Keep us from falling into the traps of illusion. Keep us from falling into the traps of the egocentric self. Allow us to separate ourselves from our lower self and stay in the higher realms of consciousness where we are close to you, to stay in the realms of truth and love and kindness and away from all of the petty things that we know and that bother us and that other people throw at us and that the world throws at us. Allow us to be free of illusion, to be free of all that isn't real. Allow us to become pure so that we can become ones who are worthy of being called your friend and who are worthy of being companions to the ones who are your friend. Cleanse us of everything that is not you. Cleanse us of everything that is not real. Cleanse us of all that belongs to this world and allow us to enter into your realm while we are still walking in this realm. Do that for us, Allah. Do that quickly. Make us all be able to see the light of the truth and open our hearts so that we can recognize you and recognize the truth within each other. May that happen for each of us, and may it happen soon. Ameen, Ameen, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.